They laughed before they even knew her name. A group of elite Navy SEALs, rough, loud, and proud, pointed and whispered as the new logistics officer walked past. On her arm was a small, faded tattoo, a black woman's hand gripping an eagle's talon. To them it looked like a joke. "Wannabe Soldier Inc.," they sneered. But what they didn't know was that every mark, every scar, and that very symbol carried a legacy older than their entire team. And soon, when the highest-ranking general in the base rolled up her own sleeve, their laughter would die in silence. The morning sun beat down over Coronado Base, where the Navy's most elite trained and tested their limits daily. Among the roar of helicopters and the crash of the Pacific waves, Lieutenant Commander Maya Ricks arrived, calm, composed, and determined. She was assigned as the new logistics officer, responsible for coordinating equipment, schedules, and mission prep for the SEAL unit, a position few women and even fewer black women had ever held. From the start, the stares followed her. The jokes whispered behind her back weren't quiet enough to ignore. "Diversity hire," one said. "Paper pusher," muttered another. Maya didn't respond. She'd heard worse. She'd served in war zones, handled crises most of them couldn't imagine. But here, among supposed brothers in arms, she faced a quieter kind of battle, one built from ego, prejudice, and doubt. Her tattoo, the black hand gripping the eagle's talon, had always meant resilience. It was her late father's design, a symbol of strength drawn from his time in the Tuskegee Airmen. Every time she looked at it, she remembered the sacrifices that allowed her to stand where she did. Still, the disrespect gnawed at her. During drills, she overheard them joke that she couldn't lift a crate without calling HQ. During briefings, her reports were dismissed or interrupted. And yet, she stayed steady, precise, professional, relentless. She knew her time would come. What Maya didn't know was that her quiet defiance, her focus and refusal to bite back, was being watched. Not just by the men mocking her, but by someone far above their pay grade. Someone who had her own story, and the same tattoo hidden under her sleeve. Days turned into weeks, and the tension around Maya only grew thicker. The SEAL unit, led by Chief Petty Officer Dan Keller, treated her presence like an inconvenience rather than an asset. They double-checked every form she signed, rolled their eyes when she spoke during debriefs, and even excluded her from post-mission gatherings. To them, she wasn't one of the team. One afternoon, during a supply audit on the dock, the situation reached its breaking point. Maya stood clipboard in hand reviewing inventory for an upcoming overseas operation. Keller and his men lounged nearby, tossing wrenches and laughing at an inside joke. When one of them noticed the tattoo on her forearm again, the black hand clutching the eagle's talon, he smirked. "Hey, LT," he called out mockingly. "That's supposed to mean you earned wings or just bought them at a gift shop." The group erupted in laughter. Maya froze, then slowly rolled down her sleeve without a word. Years of discipline kept her from reacting. But inside, something simmered. The memory of her father's funeral, the folded flag, the promise she'd made to carry his strength forward. That night, alone in her quarters, she wrote a report about the incident, then deleted it. She didn't need pity or paperwork. She needed respect, the kind that was earned, not demanded. The next morning brought an unexpected announcement. A high-profile inspection was scheduled. The visiting officer, a general known for her no-nonsense leadership, would be evaluating the unit's performance, logistics, and cohesion. It was the kind of event that could make or break reputations. The SEALs panicked. Maya didn't. She had everything organized, supply routes mapped, reports finalized, operations timed to the second. When the day came, she stood at the front of the hangar beside the unit, clipboard in hand, posture sharp. The general's motorcade arrived in silence. Stepping out was a tall, commanding black woman with eyes that seemed to cut through concrete. Her uniform bore rows of medals and a single star on her collar. General Evelyn Marsh, the highest-ranking officer to ever come through that base. As she walked past the line of SEALs, each man snapped to attention. When she reached Maya, the general paused, glanced briefly at her sleeve, then nodded with the faintest smile. The men exchanged puzzled looks. Why had the general acknowledged her? The inspection began. Marsh moved with precision, firing off questions and expecting instant answers. When one SEAL stumbled over a logistics figure, Maya calmly corrected him, citing data and timelines without hesitation. The general turned her gaze to Maya again, approving, even proud. By the time the review ended, the tension in the hangar was heavy with confusion. The SEALs who once mocked her now avoided her eyes, and then came the moment none of them expected. As General Marsh approached the group to deliver her closing remarks, she paused beside Maya once more. Slowly, deliberately. She rolled up her own sleeve. The tattoo gleamed in the afternoon light, the same black hand gripping an eagle's talon. The hangar fell silent. The laughter, the smirks, the whispered jokes, all of it vanished into shame. And then, the general spoke quietly. "I see you've met my protégé." Every head lowered. Maya stood tall, unflinching, the symbol on her arm no longer mocked but honored. The air inside the hangar seemed to freeze. No one dared to move. The same tattoo that had been a punchline hours earlier now burned into every SEAL's conscience. The men exchanged nervous glances, realizing in an instant what they'd done, not just to a fellow officer, but to someone the general herself had personally mentored. General Marsh took a slow step forward, her gaze sweeping across the room. "You pride yourselves on discipline," she said, her voice calm but sharp enough to slice through the silence. "On honor, on respect." She paused, letting the words hang heavy. "But respect means nothing if it's only given to those who look like you." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. Every man stood stiff, shoulders squared, as guilt settled over them like a second uniform. Keller, the loudest of them all, clenched his jaw, unable to meet her eyes. Then Marsh turned to Maya. "Lieutenant Commander Ricks," she said, "you've done more for this unit's readiness in 3 weeks than most achieve in a year. Your precision, professionalism, and restraint are a reflection of true leadership." Maya felt a lump form in her throat but remained composed, replying only with a respectful nod. The general continued, addressing the entire team. "This tattoo," she said, holding up her arm, "isn't decoration. It's a bond between those who fought battles most of you will never see. It represents resilience born from generations who had to earn the right to serve, to lead, to be seen. Lieutenant Ricks carries that legacy. You mocked it, because you didn't understand it." Silence swallowed the room. Even the distant whir of a helicopter outside faded into nothing. Then the general issued her final order, one that would echo long after she left. "From this moment forward, you will follow her lead, not because you have to, but because she's earned it." She turned on her heel and walked out, her boots striking the concrete like thunder. The men stood motionless, every one of them carrying a weight they couldn't shrug off. Maya exhaled slowly. For the first time, she didn't need to defend herself. The truth had spoken for her, through ink, history, and quiet strength. The next morning, the base felt different. The same men who once snickered at Maya now greeted her with quiet respect. Some offered help loading crates, others simply nodded as she passed. Small gestures, but heavy with meaning. The loud arrogance that used to fill the air was replaced by something rare in military ranks: humility. Chief Keller approached her near the equipment bay, his usual swagger gone. For a moment he stood there, awkward and unsure of what to say. "Lieutenant Commander," he finally muttered, "your systems report. It's solid. Didn't realize how much we relied on it." It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was something. Maya gave a short nod. "Glad it's helping the mission," she said, and walked on. That was enough. Over the following weeks, discipline sharpened. Her logistics plans became the backbone of every operation. The team that had once dismissed her now trusted her with their lives. When her name came up in command briefings, it was spoken with respect. And when General Marsh's report reached the higher offices, it carried a single line that summed everything up. Leadership isn't told, it's shown. Months later, during a ceremony at Arlington, Maya stood quietly beside the general. Together, they watched the flags ripple against the morning breeze. The general leaned closer and whispered, "Your father would have been proud." Maya looked down at her tattoo, the black hand and eagle's talon now etched deeper into her skin, a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands still and lets time reveal the truth. For those who once laughed, the lesson stayed long after she'd moved on to a new command. They'd learned that symbols mean nothing without understanding, and that respect, once withheld, can never truly be reclaimed. As the sun set over the field of white headstones, Maya felt a quiet peace settle in her chest. The laughter, the doubt, the judgment, all of it had turned into something powerful. Proof that no act of prejudice goes unseen, and no act of grace goes forgotten. Because sometimes the loudest lesson comes not from shouting, but from silence that demands reflection.